Je peux te rendre responsable d'un seul truc, même. J'ai horreur quand on voit ma poésie. Je pète les plombs.
Vous le voyez pas chez moi.
C'est prêt.
Finalement, non.
Kris, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Finally.
Yes, to finally meet you after a lot of Instagram exchanges that brought us to your home in Paris.
Welcome.
Thank you for receiving us at home. There's a question I like to start with a lot. Very broad question. Who is Kris Van Assche?
Who is Kris Van Assche? It's a good question. How much time do you have?
We have all like until Christmas. You kick us out on Christmas Eve.
It's work in progress. I'm work in progress. I like to think that the person that I am and my work are so interconnected. I guess job after job, collection after collection, project after project. I just keep on evolving with the work. So right now, I'm a designer who is pretty happy about the past, but even more excited about the future, I guess. Very much looking forward to another chapter of a creative life.
Yeah, I can smell another chapter coming. I can sense another chapter coming. You've been quite discreet since the end of your Berluti chapter.
But I think I'm generally
discreet by nature, yeah.
But I mean, it's also something to be discussed, because I guess knowing my Belgian background, and I mean, my parents are very like typically Belgian.
Mm-hmm.
Discretion is like the biggest quality you can have.
It's cultural.
It's cultural, yeah. And it was especially the case at my parents. I mean, my mom, she learned me, I guess, two things in life are important: is work, be independent, and be discreet. Don't get yourself noticed. You're already like life, and you are already crazy enough. Don't get noticed. I don't know if I managed both, but I mean, those are the values that I grew up with. So if you think of me as a Belgian designer, then I'm probably pretty visible, because I talk a lot. I give a lot of interviews. I've been at Dior, at Berluti, blah blah blah. So compared to that, I'm visible. If you compare me to the big social media stars, then I guess I'm not. But so it all depends on your perspective. Coming from Belgium, I think I'm pretty loud.
I mean, I think it's also hard to maintain that kind of space for yourself, which is very important in creativity.
Well, it all comes down to what is the meaning of what we talk about. It's the same like when you ask me can we do a conversation, can we have an interview? I was like, well, it all depends on what we're going to be discussing, because obviously I'm not defending a new collection at this point of my career, so that's not a topic. So if it's about talking about my favorite restaurants or my favorite food, I'm really not that interested. So the thing is, if we talk about beauty, as you say, creativity, the state of fashion, the state of art, the state of the world, whatever things that can bring something to the conversation, that can explain something about my past work and possibly my future work, then I'm open. If it's about what is my favorite color, I'm really not interested.
It's not the essence of what we're doing.
No.
It's probably been an intense journey navigating Dior and then Berluti. Now
my own brand.
Your own brand as well, which you had to pause because Dior got hectic, no?
Not exactly. I mean, I had my brand for 11 years in total, and I think I did like 7 or 8 combining Dior and Kris Van Assche. So it was not so much a question of time. It was more a question of fun. I remember at one point my company having financial troubles, having growth problems, which is, I guess, always the case when you're an independent brand. I mean, the more success you have, the more sales you get, the more people are interested, the more you're actually in trouble, because the more investment you're going to need and the more the company needs to grow, and you don't necessarily have the financial possibilities of what is needed. So at one point I was having much more trouble, much more headaches than I was having fun. And I remember my husband saying like, didn't you get into fashion for fun? Of course, at that point I was like, okay, this is not why I started all this. So that's why I put it on hold. Because it became more headache than fun. Obviously, fashion is always about finding solutions. It's always about compromising. It's always about the dream and the reality. That duality is the essence of fashion. And I don't mind. I've handled 18 years of problems in fashion. That's not, I love a good job. I love hard work. That's not the problem. But when there's no fun left, that is an issue.
Yeah, because it is a business also at the end of the day. You have to respond to.
It's
And then,
definitely, it's fashion and business. Yes, of course, of course.
So how did the past couple of years look like for Kris Van Assche?
Leaving Dior was something that I was somehow expecting. Almost nobody stays 11 years at a high
True. Yeah.
fashion label like that. So I mean, after 5 years, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at one point you know that there's gonna be an end to that. But I was very disappointed. There was a human relationship there after 11 years.
Of course.
That group felt somehow like family. So that is I left there with a broken heart. I can place it intellectually, but on a human scale, it was a tough thing. Berluti, I very much liked the challenge of it. It felt at that point that fashion being so much about streetwear, sportswear collaborations, high meeting low, causing a lot of confusion. It felt like Berluti had a very clear positioning, like we want to be the top of the iceberg, we want to be like the cherry on the cake of luxury menswear. And I was like, okay, that's a clear proposal. I wanna tackle that. In the end of the day, things turned out differently than I was expecting, but I loved the challenge of that. Without a full-time job for like a year, which has been a really new situation for me. I've worked non-stop for the last 24 years. Yeah. So that is somehow like having to kick off. Because I'm a workaholic. Challenging also not to work is actually even more challenging than working. Yeah, it's very challenging, but also interesting. Every step of that journey is interesting.
So we're in your home today in Paris. We're surrounded by a lot of art and your personal collection. Tell us about your relationship to art. How centric were they or are they still in your creative process and journey?
Well, I guess the first thing to say is that I did not grow up in an artistic family. Like my parents did not take me to museums. That was just not part of the culture. So when I entered the academy at 18, well, obviously I learned about fashion before, but I guess everything started with learning more about fashion, learning more about photography. Those were the first steps, natural steps when you enter a fashion academy. And then little by little, I guess, design, art, architecture, all those other art forms sneaked in. And so they just kept on nurturing the creative process. Photography was obviously the first because I guess that's so much linked to fashion because it's so complementary. But then little by little, furniture sneaked in, and I really started loving Pierre Jeanneret, the 50s French furniture. And then with that came 50s ceramics. So that became a big obsession, and then I got really big on ceramics. But then I learned about contemporary artists doing ceramics, and so it's an ongoing.
It keeps growing.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit like the creative process of a collection. And one just leads to the other. Yeah. And once you do something full on, you just want to.
You want to move on to the next.
You want to move on to the next thing. You just want to learn more and more and more.
You've been a key figure at Dior, as mentioned, of Dior. We were talking earlier about how much it kind of shaped my subconscious mind as in part of the fashion landscape for menswear, especially in the style in your home. I was obsessed with a pair of painted jeans that you made that I tried to replicate them on my balcony, which wasn't a really good idea. I was probably 16 at the time. It still all feels very relatable, very current. I don't look at your body of work at Dior and it just feels like a part of the landscape. If it was to come out today, it probably will go and dive head first.
Thank you.
How would you define the Kris Van Assche man? More importantly, at Dior, for Dior.
I'm always looking for balance within a silhouette or even within this interior or whatever. And balance comes with a dose of contrast. Like Dior was for me so much about couture, like almost the purest form of beauty, but using only that can then become a bit maybe too classic or theatrical or whatever for today. So honestly, I still am a big fan of Mr. Dior, the designer. So I was very, very impressed by the legacy of Mr. Dior. But so it needed to be balanced. It needed to be contrasted to find the balance for today. And so that's where street and sports came in, honestly. But that's also where certain people like Osama Chabbi come in, who bring something very contemporary to the table.
Right.
So I would say that I'm always trying to find the right balance,
Yeah.
but using opposites.
Yeah, I still remember the big hard drawer. That was
Well, I mean that's kind of almost the essence of that, like something that is a little bit hardcore, and then how do you make those things work? Because also little by little, I went more and more into the couture heritage of Dior, because initially maybe it was just about the lily of the valley, or it was about a certain fabric, a certain embroidery. That was somehow Dior for me in the beginning. But then little by little, I really started tackling the barb jacket for men, which was, I mean, that was kind of a tricky territory. But so since it became more and more couture, more and more feminine for that matter, well, the contrast needed also to be stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's where the hardcore rave parties and all that.
Yeah, it gets a little sharper.
Yes, because that went up, so the contrast needed to go up.
Do you think luxury has changed, and what role did social media play within that shift, that perception shift?
It depends what you consider to be luxury today. I think luxury became so democratic, as we tend to say in journalistic terms. Like, so many people now, way more people than when I started my career, are now into the luxury fashion. So since it became so democratic and more people got interested and involved, it also means that there is now different definitions of what luxury means to those people. For some people, luxury will actually be to be able to wear something new every day, or every 2 days, or every week. It's not exactly my idea of luxury, but for some people, choice and abundance is the answer to luxury. So that, of course, does not sit with a return to craft and precision and luxury and everlasting pieces. So I guess that is already part of the dilemma that we are facing today. I think, but I've been saying this for many years. It was the reason why I initially accepted the job at Berluti. I find all the high and low mix and match confusing. So I think fashion needs more clarity. Brands need to be more clear on their positioning, I think. And I think also social media didn't help, because before social media, there was actually something like people would maybe read a whole article in press and learn about the context of a collection, where it comes from, why a collaboration, why this artist.
The backstory.
The backstory. Well, now people, I mean, if it doesn't fit like a square picture and maybe 2 lines of text, maybe 2 lines work, people just scroll. And so I find there has never been so much communication, but there has never been so less, so little understanding. So that is confusing.
Yes.
And so I would think brands need to be more clear on where they position themselves, because there is no longer just one answer to what is luxury.
Yeah.
There is several, and so it's for the brand to be honest about where they position themselves.
And to lead also the conversation into defining what it could be to people.
Yes, of course.
Important.
Now you could somehow feel brands are just trying to give people what they ask for. There is a point for that, but how about surprise?
We spoke about the art piece that's behind us right now, and about love. I feel like luxury is a lot of love. Fashion is actually. Do you feel like people are losing their sense of desire in that whole process of trying to figure out what luxury is to each one of them?
Those are tricky conversations, because then you end up talking like the past generation, and you're like the old guy saying,
the past is
the past is so much better. I mean, I used to hate my dad for talking like that, so I don't want to go down that road. But obviously, I mean, when I was a fashion student, I would like save money for a couple of months to buy a pair of boots from the Bickenbass. I mean, that does not exist anymore. So should we be nostalgic about it? there's no point. But I do feel like we need to accept the idea that certain things take time to make. But in order for people to understand that, luxury needs to also clarify its differences with fast fashion. Yeah. Luxury cannot be fast fashion. But if luxury continues to collaborate with fast fashion, then it's only normal. People don't understand it anymore.
What are your thoughts on hype culture? And do you think streetwear can sustain in the new looks that we're seeing right now? That should be more heritage centered than it is.
Streetwear is not going to go away, is it? And why would it? It's just that for me as a designer, contrast was always key to the design process. And when luxury takes too much inspiration from streetwear, well, then you somehow lose the contrast. Mm-hmm. I think it's about clarifying positions.
Like having a clear message. You're the man behind A$AP Rocky at Joe, which was a big one, I think, for a lot of us. I remember it very clearly. It was an important one. I felt for pop culture, we received it as I felt like it was one shot for all of us. We were like, wow, okay, there's space for us in that conversation, you know? I don't think at the time there was enough distance to realize how much social weight this had, but it was it was about time. He was the first Black man to be the face of a luxury brand. Can you tell us I want the backstory of this journey and how did this come about?
Ever since like the first minute we met, I could immediately sense his sense of fashion. He knows about fashion history. He will talk to you about Japanese designers, about Belgian designers, like he wasn't even born and like he knows about them. He's really honestly very interested into that. Not only is he great at what he does, but he also has a clear interest in what I do. At that point, I didn't realize that he was the first guy in the luxury campaign. I'm happy, and he was all excited about it, but he just felt like the right choice.
So we're talking about A$AP Rocky and how central he's been, I think. The relationship of respect and how important respect is in a creative partnership.
I think when you pick somebody to front your campaign with his own career, it needs to also make sense. I mean, I never went through this process with a team, with a press team or communications team, and like, let's compare number of followers, who is the biggest name, who is gonna bring us where, and all that. And it was never conversations like that. It just somehow needed to make sense. Mm-hmm. When I work with ceramic artists to make a collection, I know it's not going to, I mean, that's not something that everybody's going to say, oh, he found this big artist. But it's not the point. The point is to explain something about my creative process that brought me to that ceramic artist. Mm-hmm. And one just makes the other better and it takes us to the next level. I think for the creative part of it, it works wonders.
Yeah.
It's all about, does it make sense? There's a lot of nonsense. Mm-hmm. So let's try to make sense.
I feel like a lot is changing right now in fashion. A lot, the perception of it. There's new conversations that are being opened. Some uncomfortable conversations as well. There's a lot of musical chairs happening in fashion right now. One is in, one is out. I'm sure we've lived the whole backstory of it. How are you navigating this industry shift? And do you think we're headed towards new horizons? A good one, I hope.
I guess it's a little bit the same answer as to what is luxury about today. I mean, it's the same thing. I guess different houses are going to have different answers to that question. There is no longer one direction, one rule, one general vibe. There is going to be houses, I hope, that are going to be more about real luxury craft, back to the essence. And then I guess there is other brands who are going to stay on the sportswear, more affordable wagon, which it's not even actually always true. It's not because it's sportswear that it's actually more affordable. So that is still another division. But so there is not one answer, but I think there will be room for everything. That is a reassuring thought.
It is, and I hope there's room for all of us in that new story. I feel like we could discuss for hours. These subjects are just... Kris, thanks for today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure meeting you finally. And thank you for receiving us in your beautiful home.
More than welcome. Thanks for the nice talk.
Thanks. Take care.
YouTube. Next time.
Next time. We'll leave it a secret.